There will be a total of 4 panelists who will be taking the floor this evening, as mentioned, including the lovely Chloe, who, in addition to leading discussion, will also lead us in a brief interactive writing workshop. So that being said, this writing workshop is completely optional and will not require you to turn on your cameras or microphones or anything like that. She'll be getting into specifics later, but yeah, just wanted to be transparent about that interactive portion of the evening. As well, speaking of interactivity, we'll also be hosting a Q&A discussion in the last 15 minutes of the evening after each speaker has finished presenting. And in this way, we ask that you please keep your questions as well as your mics muted until then. And yeah, you can either feel free to submit your questions in the chat by way of direct message to Mira throughout the evening, and or wait until the Q&A itself, where you can use the Zoom raise your hand function to indicate you would like to speak. So yeah, I would also, echoing Mira earlier, would also like to just say a huge thank you to everyone for being here tonight, specifically our audience members and lovely presenters, as well as the amazing SMACT team that includes Kala Evans, who designed our poster and visual materials for the event, and Imani Busby, our wonderful undergraduate research assistant. And finally, I would like to lead us in a land acknowledgement. Well, we are all currently located in different places through this virtual gathering attached to the physical entity of Ryerson University located in downtown Toronto. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Mississaugas, and the Anishinaabe. And yet, beyond simply just acknowledging our settler existence on this land, and in an attempt to make our collective action more meaningful, the SMACT would like to share a donation link to the Anishinaabe Health Center of Toronto that I will link in the chat below shortly. So yeah, with that, I think we should begin our event. And I would like to introduce our first guest, the ever so talented Holly that you heard as you were kind of joining the session this evening. So Holly is a Toronto-based musician and a musical educator, as well as a longtime queer collective collaborator who is fresh off the release of her debut EP, Sunflower, which I believe was the song we heard in the opening, which you can now stream on Spotify and Bandcamp. So tonight she'll be sharing some of her experiences in care and wellness as they pertain to her craft, as well as a special performance. So let's all please give it up for Holly.
Thank you so much. I feel really lucky to be here tonight. It's really nice to see some faces and to get to play some music live as much as we can right now. And thank you for having me. So my name's Holly, as she mentioned. I have been a musician for quite a while now, but in 2019, I decided to go full time and kind of just go for it, you know, quit the day jobs and start playing in bars and weddings anywhere I could. And obviously that has changed over the past year because of the pandemic. But it's really interesting because I feel like as musicians and as artists, we always find ways to adapt to these things. For me, at least, it was jarring at first, but then I started busking, something I never did before, but it was a way to connect with people and be safe and distant. So I'm going to play a couple songs for you guys tonight, one that I wrote a while ago, and then one that I just wrote during the pandemic. So you can kind of see the difference in my writing styles over the past few months, or year, I guess now. So let's start out with the one before. This song is called A Little Piece of Me, and it was the first song I ever released. It's about Tinder and online dating, which is kind of foreshadowing because I feel like a lot of people might be using those apps nowadays. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. You can find this on all platforms. I feel so alone in this room. Won't you please take away this glue? out my phone and I download, and I get out my drink, yeah, I know, and I think that you know a little more intoxicated. I'll ask you out on a date, and soon enough I think it's fate. I fall super easily, I lose a little piece of me in every bit of who I see. Suddenly fall for a trap, trying to build love from an app. Now who the hell falls for that crap? Oh, it's me. It's hard to stop though once you started. And who you fall for falls half-hearted. And now we do it all for you, and I don't know your last name. And we could be a perfect pair, and it is such a shame. A little more intoxicated, I ask you out on a date, and soon enough I think it's fate. I fall super easily, I lose a little piece of me in every bit of who I see. Suddenly fall for a trap, trying to build love from an app. Now who the hell falls for that crap? Oh, it's me. Swipe left, right, swipe left, right, swipe left, right, super, super light. Swipe left, right, left, right, right. A little more intoxicated, I'll ask you out on a date, and soon enough I think it's fate. I fall super easily, I lose a little piece of me in every bit of who I see. Suddenly fall for a trap, trying to build love from an app. Now who the hell falls for that crap? Oh, it's me. Thank you. Thank you so much. This is called A Little Piece of Me. And that was pre-pandemic. I feel like I still write comedy songs from time to time. It's a little heavier sometimes nowadays. So the last song that I'll show you before I go will kind of show you that, but in a hopeful way, I think. So much has been happening around us this past year, and it's not just a virus, you know? There's so much change happening in this world, and social media has been a huge part of that. You know, like, I feel like for me personally, I was so go. I was playing 4 to 5 shows a week in different venues, going to open mics, trying to network. And I had a network community in person, but I wasn't taking the time to really check in with people or build new communities online, you know? And that's every day now, is like finding a new group on doing a Zoom meeting with brand new people like tonight and connecting. So yeah, this is really special, and I'm gonna take a sip of water now. So this next song is not released. It's gonna be going on my first debut album this year. And it's called Big Plans. And it's kind of, I actually did this because the Association Queer Collective really helped me during this pandemic to find a community within the queer community. I didn't think I mentioned, but I am a queer artist, and it sometimes can feel, especially being bisexual, like that you don't really belong in the community sometimes. So having a group like that be like, no, you represent Pride just as much as anyone else. Like, don't think you're any different. That really made me feel like I was a part of something and that I wasn't alone. So they're doing a competition right now for social justice and change. And I wrote this song for that. So if this applies to you and you can relate, this is for you. I'm trying to get my breath back. All right. And if you like what you hear and you want to be friends, I have Instagram as well, at Clausius. So thank you for all your support. You have a certain way of showing that you care when you don't.
doesn't matter how long I scream. You only notice when I choke, gasping for air. I am fully aware of where it's going, where I've been. It is no joke, I feel smaller than most, and I know you're in control. But I'm not backing down, it's my turn to be loud, and you have no choice but to hear my voice right now. You are going nowhere, it's our turn to share, and you've done your best to fix this mess, but now it's in our hands. And we've got big plans. Still there's this doubt that's in my mind. There's never been a shift in the tide. You always tell me when I'm in the wrong, and you're always leaning right where you belong. Praying for change as I lay wide awake, not knowing, only hoping. This is the way, we need some kind of change, yeah we do, and it starts with you. But I'm not backing down, it's my turn to be loud, and you have no choice but to hear my voice right now. You're going nowhere, it's our turn to share, and you've done your best to fix this mess, but now it's in our hands. And we've got big plans.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to meet all of you guys, and I hope that I can't wait to hear the rest of this evening. It's just going to be so lovely. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here, Holly, and for sharing those beautiful pieces with us. Also, yeah, like for being so open and vulnerable about, you know, some of your experiences and ups and downs in your process, especially during the pandemic. But yeah, like you've definitely got a whole, you know, the whole We Got This community as your like fans now. So you've got an extra bit of, yeah, folks to add to your existing fan base. But thank you so much for that. So yeah, I will now would now like to invite our next guest. His name is Filmon Yohannes. He will be taking the floor. And Filmon is one of the founding members of the Black Artists Union, Toronto-based artist collective with a mission to develop an infrastructure that can support artists and creatives in their self-reliance. Since the start of the pandemic, Black Artists Union has seen massive expansion in their role as a community organizer and has consequently served as a crucial pillar for Black artists and beyond across the city of Toronto with initiatives such as the COVID Relief Fund. So tonight, Filmon will be sharing a little more about these initiatives, as well as how Black Artists Union has been able to persevere and remain consistent in their practice throughout it all. So with that, I invite Filmon to take the floor.
But I'd like to begin by giving thanks that we were able to gather together. On behalf of the collective, I'd like to thank Dr. Cheryl, Mira, Jed, as well as our fellow guest speakers for being able to come together today. It's crazy we're surviving a pandemic, you know, just to say that out loud, you're like, what? We're surviving a pandemic, but we're here. So I just want to kind of big ups everyone in the audience and just acknowledge that, like, what an amazing thing we're doing right now. So I like to share an analogy, I guess. We started, well, the collective, we had started 2020 with a great start. We had open studios in the top of the year in January. We had a music collab happening with a UK artist named Deo Bello that happened in like Toronto. You know, things were happening. We were working towards a night party. We just had a good pace, and just like that, like we stopped, and it was crazy. But around May, we realized that we can't stop, but rather we have to pivot. And so that's when one of our members in our group decided, you know what, we should do this COVID relief fund and still support members in our community through our community. So it was so we reached out and said, you know what, if you can donate anything, we'll take it, and we're willing to this is for like a relief fund for folks. And it was amazing to see in like the course of 4 months, the community, like we called and the community answered, and we received about $11,000 in donations, over like 50 donations, and it was fantastic. But now we had this money, and we're like, okay, well, what are we gonna do? And we noticed that with all these funds that existed, there was necessary work that needed to be done. And you know, there was bail funds that were towards, you know, like supporting those who, because during the time there was also this civil unrest, and so these bail funds were set up to help support people who wanted to go on the streets and, I guess, share their feelings. And so we realized, you know, how can we still support our community in a necessary way, but as well as in a proactive way. And so we had set up a micro grant. And from there, we did another outcall and said, you know what, if you have any business ideas, any prototypes of, you know, like a social media campaign or anything you need to work on and you've been thinking about and you would like some money for that, we said, you know, we're just gonna put it out and people can answer if they need it. And it was, again, the community answered and they said, you know what, yeah, we'd like some support. And so we received about over 40 applications. And as a group, we reviewed it, we went through it, and we interviewed like several amount of different people and their ideas. And then we narrowed it down to 11 creatives. And so we were able to support 11 creative endeavors, which was like amazing to think about. Because come the beginning of 2020, we had not had that planned, right? So funny enough, actually, Lashana Phillips, one of the micrograntees who received, whose business is called Nurture with Botanics, they actually, they had applied for they have this thing called a nature box, and what it is a care package of essential oils and teas and other holistic products. And we just found out that yesterday that they sold out all these their nature boxes. And again, like just to be there and to see that happen was amazing. That we were a part of that journey for them. And so you might wonder, you know, in that pivot, you have to find new footing, right? And so again, back to this analogy, we were finding new footing, seeing what works for us and where we need to head towards. And a lot of our policy kind of changed around that. And so we worked towards reviewing our policy. And so the question was like, okay, how can we still be proactive in our organizing going forward? And from there, we started to look at our goals and kind of proactively knocking down our goals through incorporating technology. And so now we meet regularly on a Discord chat. And so we realized, you know, there's tools out here that can augment our practice. And so we reviewed our monetary policy and started thinking about, you know, maybe we should start accepting Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies as our practice. And so again, we kind of evolved with the times. We took in and looked at, you know, where are we headed towards? We're headed towards a more digital landscape. So how can we adapt? And so we're looking to now, as a group, we've looked into shifting onto Web3 and minting digital art collectibles with Ethereum. And if you don't know what Ethereum is, it's similar to Bitcoin in that it's a distributed network that is like kind of one big computer, and so you can interact with it to make things happen. I do recommend if you have time to look into Bitcoin and Ethereum, because as a group, this is something that we've decided to go towards. And so, yeah, so we decided, we're not going to go against the technology. We're going to actually hone it and take it in. And that kind of was our approach going post March of 2020. We shifted, we pivoted, and now we're hoping to take a launch and jump shot. And so if I could leave you with one thing, it sucks because you can't really see the slide that I made, but it says, you got to do what you got to do until you can do better. And throughout these times, it's crazy. Again, as I said in the beginning, it's been unprecedented. Some people have lost many, but some people, I could speak personally, I've gained a lot of family members in the process of it. And so it's been crazy. It's been a wild ride, but again, one last thing is you got to do what you got to do until you can do better. And hopefully that can leave you with some optimism, because we're here, we're working together, and that we're always striving towards a goal. And I just hope that if there's one thing, you keep pushing for it. And that's what we learned from this. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Filmon. That was wonderful and super interesting to hear the way in which Black Artists Union has remained proactive and willing to even as you said, question your own traditional belief systems and or ways of doing things in order to ensure that members of our community, of our various communities, the ones that need it the most, are still supported during these crucial times. And that's something I think I want to chat more about in the Q&A later, but for now, thank you. That was really wonderful. And thank you for sharing your experiences there. So yeah, up next, we have none other than one of Toronto Manifesto's co-founders, Chelsea Martin. Chelsea is an outspoken, driven sophomore student at Drexel University who's extremely passionate about advocacy, activism, and politics, that which led her to co-founding Toronto's Manifesto last summer in response to the perpetuated horrific acts of policing and state violence against Black and Indigenous people. Tonight, Chelsea will be sharing her experience in community care and organizing in an era largely dominated by digital landscapes. So yeah, take it away, Chelsea, whenever you're ready.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that intro. I'm super excited. I do have a presentation put together and we can get into it. So again, my name is Chelsea. I'm an organizer and activist in both Canada and the United States. I'm the co-founder of Toronto's Manifesto, an online platform my friend Imani Busby, who is also here tonight, and I co-founded in June. And its main goal is to uplift and amplify Black and Indigenous communities across Canada and to educate Canadians on our untaught history. So for tonight, I decided to talk about social media activism because that is what I have a lot of background in. And so we're gonna get into what it is, why it's important, the benefits, the shortcomings of it, and then also well-beingness. So without further ado, let's get into it. So what is social media activism and why is it important? So social media activism is using social networking platforms as a means to advocate for social, political, and or environmental change. It looks like sharing posts, commenting, tweeting, virtual teach-ins, and this list is not exhaustive. There's so many other forms of social media activism. And this tool is so critical because it is used to spread information that is not typically available via mainstream media, and it's used to mobilize large groups of people in different ways to invoke change. So some different campaign strategies that are often used are mass blasting of petitions, email campaigning, donating to mutual aid funds, and educational posts, which is something that Toronto's Manifesto does. So social media activism is extremely important in today's society, first and foremost, because a lot of people have social media. I'm pretty sure everyone on the Zoom call probably has a social media account. And so not only does it make it easier for us to communicate with large numbers of people, but we're also able to organize and educate to mobilize. Specifically, this summer has been coined as the summer of digital activism. So the Black Lives Matter movement is one of the largest mass mobilizations to ever have happened in history. Worldwide, people were marching, demanding for social justice for the Black community. We flooded social media with a bunch of infographics, and we did see quite a bit of change. And all of this was possible through social media. So now let's get into the benefits of social media. What do they look like? So social media, like I said, has played a crucial role in organizing, specifically by grassroots activists, to create change and to communicate with one another. It has shown us the multiplicity of activism. And what I mean by this is that it's shown us the many different forms of activism. It's not just direct actions like protests and rallies, but art, music, medicine, academia. I mean, we've seen this throughout this call, right? We have Holly with her beautiful singing. We have Filmon from the Artist Association. So it's just, I think that social media has allowed us to see the other aspects of social justice movements as well. Also, social media is much more accessible and has been made casual. I put a little asterisk there because we'll get more into that part a bit later. And we're also able to share a lot of informational and infographics that challenge the oppressive systems that and norms that we have in our current society. It also is used to uplift and amplify the voices and works of Black and Indigenous academics, creators, entrepreneurs, businesses. This is something that we like to do at Toronto's Manifesto. We have a series called Six in the Spotlight. So if any of you are would like to be spotlighted, definitely reach out. We would love to spotlight you on our page. But essentially what we do is just uplift and amplify the works of, again, Black and Indigenous academics, creatives, entrepreneurs, and businesses, because it's so important to support our community. Social media has also made coalition building so much easier. So what I mean by coalition building is working organization to organization and collaborating on movements together. And because of this, we are able to have transnational collaboration and support, as well as mass mobilizations. And this is critical in making social change happen, because the more pressure surrounding a campaign, the more likely change can happen. Now, let's talk about the shortcomings of social media activism. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with the term performative activism. And this is the kind of activism that is superficial and is most commonly found on social media. It is self-promoting and all about visibility. It asks, okay, who's seeing me do XYZ? It is image-driven and contributes little to no effort or support to community or cause, and it can be sustained by public consumption. So some examples of this look like tagging on Instagram chains, for example. So a hashtag and then tagging 10 friends to share the same hashtag. Resharing traumatic content. This is extremely harmful and normalizes trauma, essentially. So do not do this. Sharing a post without actually reading it fully, pretty self-explanatory, and using trending hashtags. So posting a cute selfie and making the caption, hashtag justice for, fill in the name. So these are some examples, but again, this list is not exhaustive. I think that the biggest example of performative activism happened on Blackout Tuesday, which is when thousands of social media users flooded Instagram with black boxes in the name of Black Lives Matter. And so not only was this a bandwagon movement, but it was also silencing. It was silencing all the work that had been done and was being done by activists. And it also acted as an incentive. People posted their black square and thought, hey, that's enough activism for the year for me. So this, again, is just one example of performative activism. Now, let's talk about slacktivism. This is kind of going back to my point earlier about how social media activism has allowed for us to be, for us to share things at a lot faster rate, and also just making activism more casual. So slacktivism is the type of online activism that is quote unquote low effort but high results, right? So it's the desire to make change without actually putting in a lot of work to make the change. And it's rooted in feeling good about yourself, about liking posts, quickly signing online petitions, or changing your profile picture to a certain color. Now, some of you might be wondering, well, isn't this essentially good? Like, isn't this showing solidarity? Doesn't this create pressure to make change? The short answer to some of these questions is yes. While these actions do help to raise awareness and draw people into social justice movements who might not have been inclined to dive into these movements, slacktivism is mindless activism. And that plays a major role in the cycle of inaction, comfortability, and just the trendification of social justice movements. So without intention, without understanding, and without further action, social media can be used as a tool that promotes an action and passivity rather than one of mobilization and change making. So again, intention is everything here, right? Now, let's get into the do's and don'ts of social media activism. So here are some do's and don'ts. These are not exhaustive again, but good starting points. So do fact check and research. It's so important to make sure that we have the right facts about a campaign and current events happening. Crediting your sources. Citing your sources like you would cite them in someone else's essay in your essay is not just for school, right? It's for citing anyone's work. Co-opting another's work as your own is extremely harmful, and we don't want to do that. Posting action items is also a great to do. If you see a protest happening near you, community fridges where people can donate food, mutual aid funds where people can donate, email campaigns, share them with intention, of course. And that kind of leads into the don'ts. Do not post what you don't understand and what you have not read. So if you don't fully understand the concept or meaning behind a post or what an event is all about, don't post it until you do further research. Also, do not post only when it's convenient or trendy. This definitely ties back into performative activism. Activism and social justice movements are movements, not moments. And lastly, let's not tone police. Tone policing is essentially when you are, I guess, taking offense to the way someone's explaining a certain social justice issue, right? This work is very emotional, it is personal, and we should let people feel how they feel and express how they feel, especially those experiencing oppression and working to dismantle it. So now I would like to talk about well-beingness and what that means for me. So how I define well-beingness is essentially the state of feeling well in life. For me, it's a feeling of being grounded in myself, feeling happy and fulfilled within myself, feeling healthy and abundant in all ways. A huge part of well-beingness is, for me, is self-actualization, grounded in sustainability. And what I mean by that is doing the things that I want to do that are fulfilling in my life while not overstretching myself so I can devote the attention and care needed to those things. Well-beingness for me is also practicing radical self-love and radical love for others. That is the transformational, non-judgmental, but accountable kind of love that strives for better while also loving where I'm at on my journey in the present moment. It also looks like setting boundaries for me, time limits, saying no, boundaries within my relationship with myself and with others. It looks like positive self-talk and doing something I love every day, essentially pouring into myself and all the parts of me that need extra love and care. So these are some questions that I typically use to check in with myself throughout my day. So what gives me energy? Am I feeling grounded? How can I be more sustainable? What makes me feel renewed? What leaves me feeling abundant, loved, cared for? So these are questions that I encourage all of you to ask yourself, and whatever your answer is, try and center that more in your day-to-day lives. It is truly transformational. And so how does well-beingness relate to activism? So Angela Davis, shout out, it's her birthday today actually. But Angela Davis is one of my favorite activists, and this is actually one of my favorite quotes by her. She says, practicing radical self-care means we're able to bring our entire selves into the movement. It means we incorporate into our work as activists ways of acknowledging and hopefully moving beyond trauma. It means a holistic approach. This is essentially the goal. As activists, we must be cognizant of the importance of taking care of oneself, because without this, we will not be able to take care of our communities and love on them like we need to. This means setting boundaries so we can prevent burnout and vicarious trauma. Grounding and sustainability is so powerful because it allows us to bring our wholest selves to the movement. And a final takeaway I'd like to share with all of you: if there's one single word you take away from this presentation, let it be the word intention. Be intentional in all that you do. In your activism, be intentional with what social justice movements you're passionate about, why you're passionate about them, what you're sharing about them, and how you can help to make a change that is sustainable for you. Incorporating well-beingness into this journey is critical, right? And just, I would say, being intentional not only in activism, but translating that practice into other areas of your life is just going to be transformational and helpful in so many different ways. Yeah, so that concludes my presentation, but thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
That was absolutely incredible. Chelsea, thank you so much for sharing all of that lovely, like all of that information, lovely, like all of that crucial and critical information with us, and laying it out in a way that, yeah, we were able to, that was accessible. Because yeah, there is a lot of misinformation out there, especially in the age of social media and its viral nature. So yeah, I think that you laying it out for us like that, for us all to understand, was great, and a big part of the work of Toronto's Manifesto. So I encourage everyone to check them out and follow them in order to receive information like this, well-researched information like this on a regular basis. Yeah, also what you had to say about, I think, the importance of self-care in activism. It's super important because I think a lot of us experience, especially like at the height of events this summer, experience burnout. I know I for one did, and I didn't really, there was like this kind of internal dilemma of like just feeling like I couldn't give anymore, and then also just realizing that there was it was a crucial period. So it was just it was kind of a hard decision to have to kind of accept that in order to help others, you need to help yourself first, and it's not an act of being selfish at all, which I think a lot of the time, like it's been stigmatized in that way. So thank you so much for yeah, being so open and sharing insight on that. And yeah, with that, I would just like to introduce our final guest speaker of the evening, the inspiring Chloe Kirlew, also known as the ReiQueer. So Chloe is a guided spirit and a holistic health and consent educator who seeks to hold space for the magic and self-healing power of herself and others, particularly those in the queer BIPOC communities. So tonight, Chloe will not only be sharing some of her own experiences in wellness, but also invites us to directly partake in some of these practices with her through a special visualization activity. So yeah, take it away, Chloe.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jed. And thank you so much for inviting me and for everyone on the SMACT team who I'm sure has worked so hard to put this together. Welcome everyone this evening. It's always so special to be back to Ryerson in any capacity, since I am a Ryerson graduate not too long ago. And it's still pretty wild that university is not a part of my life anymore. I say with so much glee. And so it's super special to be spending this evening with you all. And it's certainly my first time speaking to so many students at the same time. So I'm really excited to kind of slow things down a little bit and for us to go inside of ourselves and to really just invite a lot of calm. As students, you know, the life is extremely fragmented. It has to be, or else, you know, that's just kind of how things are structured, unfortunately, in a way where you have to prioritize sometimes things above what you actually want to do, or things that might take precedent over what feels good in your actual bodies. So for these next few minutes while I'm speaking, the goal is to really indulge in this time. And so, yeah, thank you again for that wonderful introduction. So I want to first invite everyone to get nice and comfortable. I'm not sure how long we've been spending on our computers today, but please allow me to invite you to take this time for some movement. That looks like moving your shoulders around, or maybe just settling more comfortably into wherever you are. As Jed mentioned, we'll be doing a visualization activity towards the end of my talk. And so for that, I invite you to choose yourself first in every sense. So that looks like turning your camera off and laying down. Just again, for these next few moments, the only thing that you're actually responsible for is just relaxing and existing. And so I invite you to lay down, sit down, and do whatever you need. Awesome. So I'm here today because now more than ever, we have the opportunity to consider ourselves beyond our careers and beyond our aspirations. And what I mean by this is that the barrier of time and space that used to exist to separate us from our work selves and from our home selves has dissolved significantly. So whereas before we would finish a day of school or a day of work, and maybe we have the commute back home or the drive-through traffic back home, now we finish a full day of work and we open up a new tab on Netflix, or we may shut down our computers altogether and are instantly poofed back into our homes. We have the splotchy eyeballs going on. And so in these silences that exist between closing that last browser window or finally standing up and leaving the room for the first time that day, I want us to consider what we actually feel like. What does that feel like in our bodies? And moreover, how much time do we dedicate to simply just exist without any discernible action? So there is essentially a massive problem that is plaguing us all. And that problem is the chronic inability to chill. So relaxation now more than ever is at the risk of being turned into a reward. So we may feel like we have to earn our downtime or earn the right to sit down and do nothing, and that's just simply not true. So what I'm here to talk to you about today is simply the art of allowing ourselves and allowing our daydreams and our practices of visualization to act as a buffer to protect us from the exhaustion of all the consistent things that demand us to be present amidst the global pandemic, the same pandemic that has ushered a lot of us to exist online for most of our day. So I'm going to be leading you into a visualization activity that will challenge you to immerse yourself in your imagination and challenge you to use your outstanding intelligence and your capacity for knowledge and channel that into indulging in your dreams, places, and futures that we can create from the inside out. And I do this because it's my belief that turning dreaming and visualization into a practice allows us a much needed reprieve, and it can also ground us in what we truly want and what we truly need to invite more joy and more nourishment for ourselves, not as a reward, but simply because we deserve it for showing up and for being alive. And so again, I invite everyone to get nice and comfortable. I'm going to take this time to grab some water for myself. I invite you to do the same, and then we'll go into our visualization activity. Okay. So I'll explain a little bit about how it'll look like, the structure of it, for those that might not be used to meditating or visualizing or using our imaginations in this way. So essentially what we'll do first is we'll start by dropping our awareness into our body. And then beyond that, we'll use our imaginations to extend that outwards, and we'll see what happens. So I want us to first start by breathing and body breathing. And so for those that aren't used to breathing into our bodies or breathing into our stomachs, we can practice it all together. So on our inhale, we are used to taking literally the tiniest, quickest, shortest amounts of breaths simply to stay alive. In talking and breathing, sometimes we don't really take that time to elongate and to exist fully in that. We don't take breathing as a luxury and a relaxation. We take it as just something that we're doing while we're doing other things. And so I invite us now to bring a bit more focus into the way that we're breathing. And on our inhale, inviting ourselves to really fill up, nice and nourishing. So as you're inhaling, allowing your tummy to get nice and round, really holding in that breath until you feel your heart beat once or twice, and then exhaling nice and slowly, either through the nose or through the mouth. So our aim here is to have our inhale match the length of our exhale. And what this does is trigger our parasympathetic nervous system, which essentially lets our body know that it's okay to relax. And it brings us the quality of breathing that we get when we're in our deep sleep as well. So we'll do that one more time. Again, inwardly just giving yourself permission to just exist and be. Inhaling nice and full, rounding out your tummy. Inhaling as much as you can until you feel like you're about to pop. Holding that for a moment, and then exhaling nice and slowly. And we'll just do that one more time on your own pacing. So as we're continuing to breathe in our bodies, extending our tummies, and as we inhale, flattening back against our spine, we're going to start by blooming a warmth from the center of our chest or our heart space. So if we're not sure how to do this, we can start by just focusing, bringing our attention to our heart space, and basically trying to feel that part of ourselves without actually putting our hands on it and touching it. So again, using our powers of imagination and visualization, imagining that this warmth is growing and blooming out from the center of our chest. And I invite you to put your hands either on your heart space or on your stomach, or maybe one hand on each. And as we continue to breathe here, I want us to imagine that this warmth that's blooming from our chest has a color. Any color you want. And now, with each inhale and each exhale, that color starts to grow and that warmth starts to grow until you are covered head to toe in this. I may take a couple breaths. Perhaps it blooms out through our chest, into our shoulders, spilling down our arms, and then back up in our heads, finally resting down in the bottoms of our bodies until we're entirely submerged. In this position, we're going to flip our hands upwards now. And we're going to imagine that as we flip our hands upwards, whatever color that we have coated ourselves in begins to shoot out of our hands in front of us until it starts to form a portal. And I want us to envision ourselves looking into this portal. Does it look like how it looks on TV with all the swirls? Is it shimmery? Is it moving? And what does this portal look like? More importantly, do you trust it? If not, you can set an intention for yourself here that this portal will only take you somewhere safe, or will only take you somewhere super cool, or somewhere that you want to be. You can even ask. You can ask it to take you somewhere gorgeous, somewhere you miss but haven't been in a long time, maybe even outer space. Wherever you go ahead and step into that portal now and feel yourself fall down that tunnel. And when you arrive on the other side, take a moment and ask yourself, where am I? Do you recognize your surroundings? Using your imagination, I want you to walk around or float or swim, whatever applies, and familiarize yourself with the area that you're in. And if you don't like where you are, you can simply step back through the portal and go somewhere else. So take this time now to walk around, really be leisurely, go with your imagination, create, walk around, get comfortable in your surroundings, play, run, lay down, whatever you want to do. So while we're in this space, we start to notice that there's a movement from the portal wherever we are. And it seems as though someone is trying to join you here. You can finally see their face and you're instantly filled with relief and comfort. Who is here with you? Greet them. Imagining that you and your loved one now have time to frolic about. What do you do? And where do you go? And what types of things are you getting into together? I invite us to spend some time here, indulging in this daydream. Allowing whatever sounds exist, either in the physical space you're in, or wherever your portal took you, whatever sensations arise, just allowing ourselves to be open to them. Remembering that there is no right or wrong way to dream, but to use your imagination. And so as we're spending time with our loved ones in our fantastic place, in our portal, we realize that our time is starting to come to an end. And it seems as though whoever joined you here has something that they'd like to share, something that they feel might help you feel safe or better. And I want you to listen to whatever that is now, or whatever comes to mind at all. Giving ourselves permission to accept things that feel nice or comforting. And lastly, we can accept a hug or an embrace from our loved ones. And we can step back into the portal together. Except this time, as you come back to the room, you're back by your computer. You're back in this space. And I invite you, if it resonates, to just take a sec, exist. Think about what that was like for you. If you have a journal or anything nearby, feel free to write something down. Folks can hop in the chat if they'd like. And, kind of enjoy the dreaminess of floating in between worlds. I think that as educators or as people in general, it's so important for us to give a lot of respect and attention to our child selves and to all the versions of ourselves and the versions of the bodies and the people that we've existed in, even up until yesterday and last week, to arrive to where we are now. And a massive part of that is inviting play and rest into our practices, and to make sure that we're not turning either of those things into rewards, into things that are contingent upon how hard we work or the value of our efforts, and just something that we understand that we deserve because we deserve it, because we're here, because we're doing the thing. Especially for those existing in queer bodies and racialized bodies, it's hard enough. And it's unfortunate that a lot of our play and a lot of our joy at times is interrupted. And so reclaiming that is something that is radical in itself and can really only benefit all of our endeavors, including career-wise and education-wise. So that was my time with everyone today. I hope that was valuable in some way. Again, my name is Chloe. I do my work as a ReiQueer. I believe someone shared my social in the chat, so thank you. And yeah, I appreciate everyone's comments in the chat. Thank you so much.